This is Irrational Wrestling Mark, and welcome back to another edition of Rational Wrestling Talk, where I'll be discussing why Jey Uso is the one to end Roman Reigns' Terror, right? Well, reign of terror, I should say. Finally, be the one to end Roman Reigns' championship reign that has been going on for, I believe, 1,040 something days. And look, in the past, you had two surefire, candidates to be the one to end Roman Reigns' championship reign, right? And those two names were Drew McIntyre before Clash at the Castle, because one Drew McIntyre was in his home country, right? And many would say that was the perfect venue for Drew McIntyre to finally win the big one in front of an actual audience, which he never did. When he beat Brock Lesnar, he won the title in front of nobody, no fans. And so a lot of people were disappointed when Drew lost. And since that loss, he has never really been the same, right? So a lot of people thought he should have won. He should have ended Roman Reigns' title reign. Okay. Fast forward to Elimination Chamber 2023 this year, where Sami Zayn broke away from the bloodline and he became the most popular he's ever been, the most over he's ever been in his entire career. And in his home country in Canada, it looked like Sami Zayn could have been the one to beat Roman finally and pin him. I mean, what a moment that would have been. Imagine the ovation and the pop that would happen if Sami pinned Roman. Even though when we look at Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn, their losses weren't clean. Of course, they had help. Solo helped Roman beat Drew McIntyre. Roman needed help to beat Sami. A lot of distractions, referee bumps. But people were disappointed that Sami lost. Like we sacrificed Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre so that, okay, Cody Rhodes can finally be the one to beat Roman at WrestleMania. And ever since Cody came back, last year's WrestleMania, I mean, it was pretty much already guaranteed that Cody is going to be the one to defeat Roman, finish his story, win the title that his father never won, to fulfill his mission and to really fulfill his father's legacy and cement it. That was supposed to happen at this year's WrestleMania, but it did not happen because of Solo Sikoa, right? I don't know what would have been any different if Cody did win and beat Roman. We don't know what would have happened if Cody was the one to beat Roman. They could have still, did the whole bloodline storyline and did the whole thing with the Usos breaking away. They still could have done that. But I can see why they would want to get the title involved, right? And obviously have Roman, make it past 1,000 days as champion. And that was probably the goal to begin with, right? But it just seemed so obvious. If Drew wasn't going to beat him, if Sami wasn't going to beat him, it was going to be Cody Rhodes, no doubt. Everybody was banking on Cody winning. And it didn't happen. And the same thing was for Drew McIntyre. People thought McIntyre was going to beat Roman. It didn't happen. We thought that Sammy could have a chance. At the time, I didn't think Sammy was going to beat Roman, because Cody has to be the one, right? I wasn't banking on Sami Zayn. So I knew for a fact Sammy was going to lose to Roman, right? But the whole purpose was to, okay, we pretty much had, your two most popular baby faces at the time lose to Roman. Okay, well, Cody has to be the one, right? Like we gotta get Cody to be the one to pin Roman, right? No. Now that he's involved with Brock Lesnar in a feud that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense on paper, has not been explained at all. As we thought Cody and Roman, we could have ran that back at SummerSlam this year, but that's not the plan. That's definitely out the window. But if you go back to the origins of the bloodline, it started with Paul Heyman. It really got going with Jey Uso. In the beginning, Jey Uso rebelled against Roman and didn't want to be, he did not want to acknowledge Roman at the time because he thought his cousin was on some BS. Like, we're supposed to be family. We're supposed to respect one another. And obviously for Jey Uso, he felt that Roman did not respect him, right? Roman was on some was on some, tribal chief shit. He was on his head of the table shit. And he wanted Jey to acknowledge him. And it took him some time, And that's where the whole moniker of main event Jey Uso came from. And I thought in those back-to-back matches he had with Roman at Night of Champions, Hell in a Cell, Jey Uso really proved himself to be a main event player. And that's because of Roman, because Roman brought him there. Roman Reigns is the reason why Jey Uso feels like a main eventer. And it brings me to the prospect of Jey Uso winning the Undisputed Championship, being the one to finally beat Roman, like take away his title. Imagine how that would look after SummerSlam. Could you imagine? Can you imagine a Jey Uso being the top guy in WWE as the Undisputed Champion with no Roman involved? Like, imagine Jey Uso defend the title, the main title, against everybody but Roman. How would that look? How would the company look? Like, that just seems like a weird concept, right? It just seems so out of left field. Like, wow, this has been a tag team wrestler for over a decade. At the time, when he first debuted, he was barely recognizable. You couldn't really tell Jimmy and Jay apart. Now you can, obviously. But in the beginning, you couldn't tell the Usos apart. But it's crazy to think that, okay, here in 2023, Jey Uso is being talked about of being the one to defeat Roman at SummerSlam. I mean, it's crazy. And it's going to be the main event. No doubt. It's going to be the main event. This is the biggest storyline in the company right now. And the biggest SummerSlam main event in recent history. Because of the stakes, because of the drama, the cinema that the Bloodline storyline has become, and it's been consistently good. Okay, and this is an example of long-term storytelling. This is long-term storytelling 101. And the bloodline started with Jey Uso and Roman, Paul Heyman. Would it make sense for it to end with Jey Uso? Would it make sense for it to end with Jey Uso? And how would that look? How would Jey Uso as the main champion, how would that look for the WWE? You know, is that something that would be sustainable for the future? It's going to garner a huge reaction if it were to happen. But within the storyline context, it really does make sense for Jey Uso to win. Because it always comes back to Jey, right? The stuff with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes and the bloodline just breaking up, having their drama, everything kind of came back to Jey Uso, right? Because it started with Jey. So it should naturally end with Jey being the one to take down the tribal chief, the mafia boss that has put him in bondage for the past 3 years. And now Jey Uso is the first person to pin Roman Reigns in 3.5 years. Fun fact, Jey Uso was actually the first person to pin Roman Reigns in WWE. When he first debuted with the Shield, he was undefeated, if you remember. He wasn't pinned for like almost an entire year. And Jey was the first one to pin Roman on the main roster, I believe back in 2013. So within a 10-year time span, he was the first to pin Roman and then the first to pin Roman in 3.5 years. Like, that is insane to think about. That's crazy. But we said the same thing with Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes. They were the ones to beat Roman, and it didn't happen. Now, it won't surprise me that if Roman beats Jey, it won't surprise me. You know? But at some point, they're going to run back Cody and Roman, most likely for WrestleMania. But the only two guys at this point that can realistically beat Roman right now is Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. Because there's nobody else on the roster that has a stronger conviction, a stronger story, all right, with a lot of emotional support from the audience, right, that can defeat Roman Reigns. The only two people that qualify is, and you could probably say Sami Zayn too, possibly Sami Zayn, but the two main ones is Cody and Jey. I think what should happen is Jey should beat Roman. Yes. I think it should end at SummerSlam. Because if you think about it, he was already pinned. I mean, the whole aura of Roman Reigns not getting pinned in 3.5 years is over. There's no point in letting that be, oh, I wonder who's going to pin Roman. I wonder if he can finally be the one to beat Roman after 3.5 years. He was already pinned. So we got that out the way. Roman has already been pinned by Jey Uso. It's still going to be more impactful when Jey beats Roman because it's going to really solidify years and years of abuse, being put in bondage by Roman, and being, kind of inferior to Roman for all these years. It's going to be vindication for Jey Uso. For Jey Uso, he's going to finish his own story, right? And this is where Cody comes into play. Obviously, Jey can have a short reign with the title. I believe Payback comes after SummerSlam. So Roman can always get it back at Payback, right? He can get his payback, right? As the pay-per-view name, as the pay-per-view name, right? And that's where his title reign started to begin with at Payback 2020. That's where it all started. So Roman Reigns is no longer unbeatable. He's been proven to be beaten before. So now he can be beaten, right? And Roman beats Jey at Payback, and he gets back the title, right? He takes back his place as tribal chief, head of the table, right? And then fast forward to WrestleMania 40. Cody finally finishes his story. And see, going into that WrestleMania, it's not going to be about Cody being the one to finally beat Roman. That's not going to be the story because Roman has already been pinned. He already lost the title first to Jey, right? And at this point, Roman Reigns losing to Jey Uso, it's not going to hurt him. Like, this is a guy that was undefeated for 3.5 years. Like, give me a break. This is a guy that doesn't lose often. So he can afford a loss, It's not going to hurt Roman. But when we get to that match with Cody and Roman, it's not going to be about Roman finally getting pinned and finally losing the title. No, it's going to be about Cody finishing the story, and that's it. That's all the story is going to be about. It's Cody finally fulfilling the Rhodes legacy and finally winning the WWE Championship that his father never held. That's the story that will go into WrestleMania. So Jey can beat Roman. Roman can win it back. Then Cody will beat Roman. And that's how it should go. And Jey winning, like I said, would be, just a full circle moment. Like, that is the perfect full circle moment for Jey Uso. In the beginning, he was subservient to Roman Reigns, right? He lost back to back. His twin brother got involved. Roman Reigns obviously manipulated, Jey Uso into joining up with him and acknowledging him. And, Roman was on his power trip, right? Jey obviously wanted to rebel against it, but Jey had to fall in line. And then, at Hell in a Cell, if you remember, Jey had to watch his twin brother get choked out by Roman, right? At that time, Jimmy had an injured leg. So there's a lot of emotional, there's a lot going on emotionally for Jey Uso storyline wise, and just a reason for him to win because he's been through a lot of abuse by Roman. So nobody has been put through more by Roman Reigns than Jey Uso, So this is definitely a full circle moment for Jey if he beats Roman. So I think it should happen. And like I said, he doesn't have to hold the title for a long time. That's not going to happen. It'll be like a Mick Foley Rock situation where Mick Foley beat The Rock just to get that huge pop and that big moment. And of course, he lost it, I guess, within a month. That could happen with Jey Uso. He wins at SummerSlam, drops it to Roman at Payback. and then boom, we end it from there. So that's my thoughts. Make sure you guys like the video for the algorithm. Subscribe for more content. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Do you think Jay should be the one to end Roman's reign of terror at SummerSlam? And this is the Rational Wrestling Mark. Another edition of Rational Wrestling Talk, and I'm out. Peace.